Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hello everybody, I am so excited to bring you to another weekly wrap up. I believe this is week 37 if my memory does not fail me, and it does sometimes, so who's to say. We're going to dive right in. We have, I believe, 9 books to talk about this week, and it was a pretty decent week, I'd say. Let me look at my overview here. Yeah, we had pretty much everything. Well, everything is 3.5 stars or higher, with the most of them sitting in 4 and even 5 stars. So I'm very, very happy to go through these. First, let's welcome some new supporters to the channel. On my Patreon, we have Yasmin Alexandra. Yasmin, thank you so much for choosing to support me on Patreon. And as a channel member, we have a new fated friend named Little Poet Boy. So welcome. I hope you love romance novels and talking about them. We're happy to have you here. So also, before we get into the books, I of course do have to do a little plug for my Etsy shop, and I also want to let you know, I don't know how long this coupon is lasting for, but on top of being able to use my shop discount, which I have available to everybody, which is the Book Refuge 10, Etsy is running a sale that they are covering the cost of, so it doesn't hurt me at all. Some of you are so kind and you don't even use the coupons because you want me to get everything for it, which is so sweet of you. There's not another way to say it. Thank you. That's so kind. But with this one, Etsy's foot in the bill. So please don't worry. And also, please don't ever feel guilty about using the 10% off coupon. I do want everyone to get a discount on what I make. But we have some new and returning items in the shop. For returning, I did end up finding some more of the orange, like the leaves and the orange flower skull fabric. So this will be the last run of this for sure this time, but I know how sad some people were that they missed out because I didn't have a lot of this in the initial run, but I do have a good amount of copies. What is it? A good amount of these book sleeves. So definitely check that out. Then for new to the shop, there's only the Kindle size of this one left, but this is what I'm calling the Witchy Black Cat, and it does have some like metallic sheen on some of the pumpkins and stuff like that. So this one's really cute for spooky wise. Then we have some that didn't really like fit in any category, so I just threw them in there. There is some of this night sky, Aurora Borealis space fabric. There's just a couple of these ones. And also I found this adorable little piggy fabric. Again, this doesn't fit with my style or any of the things, but they're these little Wilburs. They're so adorable. And so I have a run of these, and I'm actually selling these for only $10.50 because I got the fabric really cheap, but I just had to make some sleeves out of it. So I'll have links for these down below. Then, these were kind of a big endeavor for me. I was very excited to try them out, but I have made some extra large sleeves. So this sleeve will actually fit, like, I'll show you here. So like this is my Outlander Drums of Autumn hardcover, and that will actually fit inside one of these, very snug and be nice and cozy. This is probably the max size of a paperback that'll fit, but this will fit a lot of Sarah J. Maas. It'll also fit, I had the like large indie paperbacks in there as well. But yeah, you'll be able to get that size in. So I have some unique patterns for these ones, and I do have, keep your eye out, I do have 2 that will be in this pattern. I just need to get some backing fabric, and I have 2 that will be made out of this fabric. So those ones will hopefully be live by the time you're seeing this. But these ones, definitely ones you want to use the Etsy coupon on. I believe the Etsy code is GET5, and it's $5 off of $25 spent. But anyway, I have so far these 2 left. I've already sold a bunch to my patrons already. This is a like Goblet of Fire stained glass Harry Potter fabric. So I love the dragon on this one. Here's like the Hogwarts castle. So these ones are listed right now. So definitely snag yourself those. So there we go. I'll have the links to that and the coupons listed down below if you want to get in on that. And now let us get into the books that I read this week. Okay. So let me get to the front of my page here. and pull up my notes. I have my notes over here. Okay, so the first book that I read was one that was on my TBR. Very proud of myself. I got through a lot of TBR books this week. I had a copy of Wrong for You by Harlow Ray. This is one that I got signed for me when I went to North Iowa Book Bash. This is my first book by Harlow Ray. I did buy another one as well when I was there, so I definitely want to read that one as well, because I believe it connects with this one as well. There was a lot of side characters I met. Currently, this one is like a standalone. It doesn't say that it connects with anything else yet. So yeah, this one is on its own for now. It may be a part of a series later, but this one also takes place in Minnesota, which was cool. I've read a couple books that took place in Minnesota, and it's no surprise. They're ones from North Iowa Book Bash, which had a lot of, what's it called? Local authors, so that makes sense. But this one is a single dad. He is a mechanic. He's a grumpy hero. Look at, he's got fucking tattoos everywhere. It looks amazing. This is one though that the discreet cover is actually really cute too, because it has the little girl on the front with them. But these two dated when they were very young. She was 18. I think he was like 20 or 21. And then they had only been dating for a few months, but really were into each other. And then it was discovered that he had got his previous hookup pregnant. And so he breaks up with this heroine, just as, you know, she was turning 18 and they were going to try to be together. They have been dating. And he breaks up with her because he thinks it's best for her. She has plans to go to school, to get out of this small town. And he knows that he needs to do right by his child that's coming. Fast forward a few years, and he's not, it doesn't appear that he was ever really with the mother of his child, but he still like broke up with the heroine so that he could focus on the kids. So he is now a single, like, full-time dad of his little girl, and the heroine is back in town, and she is a dance teacher. She teaches ballet and dance, and she also has gotten a job at a bar in town, and now it's the bar that he frequents. So he goes there after a long day at work, and he's just, like, so pissed to find her there. And so he's very, like, grumpy to her in that aspect of just, like, I can't escape you. My daughter is obsessed with you. She talks about you all the time, and you are just, like, I need you to not be here. So he's pretty grumpy with her, and it's kind of annoying. But what made this one work, why I had a fun time with it, number one, I listened to the audiobook, and this was narrated by Kai Kennicott and Wen Ross, which they are a married couple that narrates a lot of books together. They don't only narrate together, but they do a lot together, and so I loved that. I listened to this while I was doing some of my sewing for sure. And then also, once the hero kind of decides to go for it with the heroine, he really has to, like, grovel a bit and prove to her that he doesn't just want to have sex with her, that he always wanted to be with her. He only broke up with her because of the reasons and stuff like that. And I really liked how he was trying to win her over. He does also have a big piece of ammunition on his side, which is his little girl, who, as I said, his little girl loves the heroine. She's obsessed with her dance teacher. So he does definitely use his little girl to his advantage to win over the heroine. And I was okay with it. I was here for it. I loved it. It was great. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I will be reading more of this author soon. This one also has, I gave it a 3 on the spice scale. And a final note I want to say is that what really, like, helped this book too is there is, you know, something to do with the mother of the little girl, which you feel like is going to be this other woman drama, you know, or this woman's going to come in and be angry that he's falling for someone else. The way that this usurps other woman drama, like, it, number one, teared me up because there's a very touching scene, and I ended up being very proud of the baby mama in this book. And that's, like, all I want to say. But I just want to put it out there that I was, like, enjoying this book, but I was like, oh gosh, it's going to have a third act conflict that I can see coming from a mile away. And it didn't. It didn't. And I actually put this in a video I have coming out that is no third act conflict because of what it chooses to do with this. So, love that. All right, then I read an arc of Despising the Duke by Stevie Sparks. This is book 2 in the, like, Desirous. I don't even remember what the series name is. I don't know. But I was anticipating this after reading Surrendering to the Duke. And this book I knew was going to be pretty angsty. So I was nervous about it because it was I mean, it's not even a secret because if you read the content warnings and as well as just like I'm going to give them to you, like this was a secret baby, but the big like trigger warning for this is that it is a miscarried child. But the hero doesn't know about the baby, and he actually goes on an Antarctic expedition. He's an explorer. It's one of her brother's friends. And so like they had this, I mean, it wasn't a one-night stand. They had been together, and both of them are people who are like, we're not going to get married. But they have this crazy connection. And the hero for sure is like, I want to be with this woman. I'm going to go on this expedition. I'm going to give her some time to get used to us being together. And he asks her to wait for him. And she is like, I never want to get married. She is kind of a blue stocking in the time. This flashback is in 1907. Because then we see it 10 years later. Maybe it's either way, I think it's like a 10 or like 12-year jump or something like that. So it's like before the war, because this series takes place between the wars. So anyway, he's about to go on his expedition. She discovers that she's pregnant. And because she does want to be with him, she writes him a letter that he doesn't get. But she doesn't know that. She receives a letter back that says, I wish you luck in your current situation. That is literally what she gets back. So if you've read Reckless, this might sound a little familiar, only extended by a decade and lots of pain and agony and like alcohol abuse and just PTSD and all these other things magnified by 10,000, right? But what worked for me is we see both of these people at a very dark place. Like we see the past, we see their great connection, and like we know something horrible happened to keep them apart. There's no way on God's green earth that this hero would have abandoned her this way. Like I hope that's clear to anyone who's reading it. Like I absolutely knew it. But we see him at a horrible place when we see him again, and we see her doing something pretty naughty that without full context will not look great and makes the heroine look pretty unlikable. But once these two get the chance to confront each other, which the author does not draw this out too long. Like it is agonizing in the beginning of this book, y'all. It hurts so much. But once they get a chance to confront each other and discuss what's going on, these two, it's so tragic the time that they lost. Our heroine, what made the hero so mad at her is because he doesn't know about the pregnancy, but he discovers that she marries someone else, which she has to marry someone else because she's pregnant, and he told her to go fluff off, which is what she thought, he said. And so she marries someone else. Now, I did say this was a miscarriage of the child, and so she marries someone else, and then she's married to them, but she lost the baby. This other person she married was such an eccentric and kind old man. His actions towards her when she loses this child, I'm not going to talk about them, but I full on ugly cried. This very kind old man. So anyway, this is one of the angsty ones. This isn't going to work for everybody. It's not even, not even in the same way the first book worked for everyone, right? Or not that it did. But I really, really enjoyed the first one, and even the dark content that was in the first one, the stuff the heroine had been through in that one, I liked watching the healing journey. This is a bit of a different kind of healing journey because neither of them has been sexually traumatized in any way, but they do work out a lot of their pain and heartache through like dominating each other. So this has switching happening in it. There is some anal dilators used, which if you don't know, like dilators were like they were dildos, but they were called like dilators. So there's time accurate sex toys used, there's some dominance used, and there is a batch of kittens that these two adopt together that steal my absolute soul. So when I made it through this book, angst and all, I gave it 4 stars. It was almost too angsty for my heart, but once we get past the angsty part of it and we get into the loving, like proving that we still love each other, like time isn't going to stand in our way stuff, this was swoon worthy. and if you can make it through an angsty book, like, I felt this was very satisfying. What I didn't find satisfying was really, like, how they were kept apart, like, who did it, like, who wrote that letter. I don't want to spoil anything, but I just wanted more vengeance. I wanted more vengeance for that. And yeah, so I give it 4 stars. It's a 4 on the spice scale. Like I said, we have sex toys for the time period. We have restraints. We have switching. There's some rough sex. So there's some really good, like, sexual bonding throughout this. And I love that kind of stuff. I really do. And then the trigger warnings, as I said, loss of a child, cheating, not on either of the main characters, but one of them does interact in a cheating scenario, with the caveat, which I don't want to spoil it, but, like, I was okay with this cheating scenario because of what was going on. PTSD and, yeah. So there was a lot of angst in this one, but I still had a good time. So there we go. All right. Next up, I did an audio advanced copy of Sinful Vows by Lillian Harris. So a little bit of backstory. This worked out really well. I'm on Lillian Harris's ARC team currently. I don't know if I'll end up always being on it because she does have a lot of standards for her ARC team, which some authors just have to do. That's their business. They don't want people getting books that aren't putting in the work for it. And I just can't devote that amount of, like, time to an ARC team. I just can't. Some people absolutely can. But currently I'm on her ARC team, and she was looking for people who could help proof listen to her audiobook for Sinful Vows. Now, I already had Sinful Vows on my TBR because I read Shattered Secrets this month, and I wanted to also get into her other series, her Messina crime family. And because she was offering the audiobook for this, I was like, hey, sign me up. Teddy Hamilton was narrating. So I dived into this one, and this one had an interesting scenario. So we have a heroine who, her and her 2 friends are kidnapped into human trafficking and sex slavery. And for the last 8 years, they have been forced into sex slavery. And there's an opportunity for our heroine, what's her name? Our heroine is Elsie. There is an opportunity for Elsie to escape. And this opportunity involves her climbing into the back of Michael's SUV when he happens to stop by this place because he wants to speak to someone who works with this. Like, not because his family works with them, but he needs to speak to someone. And she climbs in his SUV, and she doesn't get her friend to come with her. Her friend is too scared, but she makes a run for it. And when she does that, she now finds herself stuck in his home because he drives into his garage and then he locks the place down because he's in a mafia family. But he also has a little girl, and the little girl is his reason for doing a lot of things. So he needs a wife to get his father off of his back, and so he can take over the family because his father won't let him take over the family until he has a wife. Who knows why? So when he discovers the heroine, he makes her kind of a devil's deal that says, you be my wife for 1 year so that I can take over this and do this. And when it's over, I'll give you your freedom. Now, she agrees to this, not planning to stay there because she's like, okay, well, he's going to kill me if I don't. But her plan is to get back to her friend. And I really, really felt that so much. Like, I can't even imagine the things that I'd be willing to do for my best friend if we were living this life. You know what I mean? So she makes her decisions, but then, they join into this marriage and their feelings start happening. And there is some other things being shuffled around the board as well, as to why he only asked for a year and as to why he's acting certain ways. So I actually enjoyed this quite immensely. I will say I'm probably not the best audiobook proofer because when I listen to audiobooks, sometimes I read exactly along with it, but also sometimes I like to be doing other things. So I don't know if I was the best. I did discover a few things that were messed up with it, and I hope that waste But I think I would rather sign up for just ALCs next time, not the proofing part, because I don't want an author to waste, I don't want to waste anyone's time. So listening to an ALC and just like getting to advance listen to something is great, but proof listening, maybe I wasn't the best choice. I'll admit that. But I did give this book 4.5 stars because I liked it even more than Shattered Secrets. So I gave it 4.5 stars, and it's a 4 on the spice scale. We have some dirty talk, some rough sex, and a few other kinky things thrown in. And then there is, as I said, trigger warnings for sex trafficking, PTSD, rape, murder, and more. So be prepared for this. Alrighty. Then we had a book that I absolutely adored, and it was Salt Kiss by Sierra Simone. So if you saw my last week's, you know that I read Salt in the Wound right at the end of the week. This is now the official first book in the Lioness trilogy. Now, before I go any further, I can officially tell you, you must read the prequel before you read it. Like, you have to. You have to get the context of the story. As I've said in that review, it kind of covers 4 years or so that we don't see in this. You have to read it. It's not the type of prequel where it's just like different characters. It is literally the opening to this series. So don't think you can skip it. You need to start with Salt in the Wound. There's audiobooks for both of these. Why is this messed up? So yeah, please don't skip it. You have to start with Salt in the Wound. Just look at it as literally book 1. Because you, in that one, get the context of Mark and Isolde's arranged marriage, like what it's been like for the last 4 years. Now, where the Salt in the Wound ends is actually the midway point of this, though, because we're following Isolde. Her POV is in Salt in the Wound. Salt Kiss is the POV of Tristan. So also, this was perfect because I got my copy from Bloom yesterday. And so I read the e-arc of this, but it came with this absolutely beautiful page overlay, which is so sweet of them to send. And then this piece of artwork of Tristan and Isolde, which is so cool. So the first half of this book is Tristan, who is Mark's nephew-in-law. His sister married his dad. I think that's what happened. So he's his uncle-in-law. And he gets a job to be his bodyguard. So Michael is an ex-CIA operative, and he also owns this sex club, which deals in information. You don't buy a spot at this club. You must give something, a secret that no one else knows about you. That's how it works. So yeah, it's kind of fascinating in that way. But Tristan, he is I think he's 28, 29. He's a virgin. He's bisexual. Not all this is said. It's like inferred, like you can figure it out. And so he's very intrigued by Mark. And when he's about to get the job, he himself as a bodyguard has to fill out a yes and no's list for kink, because he is going to be subjected to watching Michael doing kink and being around kink at the club. And I thought that was a really cool aspect. And of course, Sierra Simone would think of that, because he, Mark is thinking so much to the point where it's like, we need to respect everyone's boundaries, even the people that are the help. Like, it wouldn't be fair of you to have to watch things that were going to trigger you or be tough for you. So he has to fill that out even in the beginning before he starts this job. And so that also gets his mind thinking about things that he had never even thought about before. And so he's very attracted to Mark from the jump. Like we said, he already knows he's bisexual. Again, this isn't said, we just know. But he's drawn into Mark's world. And so I believe it's for 4 or 5 months he is his bodyguard. And eventually in that time, he knows that a previous bodyguard of Mark's was involved in a kinky relationship with him. And as Mark becomes interested in that, he wants to as Tristan becomes interested in that, keeping them apart, he, brings it up to Mark that, he would be willing to be that for Mark. And Mark's like, I don't think we can complicate it, because it isn't just you being my bodyguard like it was for the previous one. You're also a part of my family in a way. So that might not be the smartest move on my part. But anyway, of course it's going to eventually lead to that. And we get some absolutely steamy scenes. And just, Mark also warns him, he's like, if you become mine, I would use you all the time. And this isn't about love for me. I just would be insatiable for you. So be prepared. So yeah, we get to see that. But then we do get to the point of the book where it crosses with Salt in the Wound, which if you read that, that's when Tristan and Isolde meet. Because up until the point where they meet, Tristan doesn't even know about this engagement, this arranged engagement where they're free to do whatever they want until they say I do. So this isn't technically a cheating thing, but we'll see. So I don't want to spoil any more of that. I already gave a lot of background, but I know that Sierra Simone's series can be very, that was difficult to say, can be very intimidating to people. So I give a little more context for this than I would for something else. Because especially since this is book 1 in the trilogy, and you know, you are left on a cliffhanger. So I can understand if people won't want to dive in yet, because yeah. So it does have a cliffhanger, but it also wasn't like a horrible one to me. Some people may disagree, but it had a cliffhanger where I was kind of like, oh my gosh. So we're supposed to get the next one, which will be, I can't remember what the next one's going to be called. I'm not sure what the next one will be. Is it Hemlock? I don't know what it is, but whatever the next one's going to be, I'm so excited where it picks up, and we should get it early 2024, and then the third part will be out by the end of the year. So we'll get both of the next parts then. So I completely understand if people won't want to dive in now. I'm glad I read the arc. I'm glad I was pushed into it, because with some of Sierra's series, I waited so long to read them because I was intimidated, and then I loved them. Like, there isn't a book by her that I've disliked. So I'm really glad. And thank you so much to Bloom for sending me this, for giving me the arc of these. I just loved it. And also, let me just say, this is actually a gorgeous cover. I know we get tired of flowers. I know we do. But I actually love this cover. Would I like the cover with Michael on the front? Which, that's actually the model's name is Michael. Yes, I would. But this was beautiful. So there was that. All right. Then I read After the Fall by Claudia Connor. So after I read Worth the Fall last week, which was a 6-star read, it's going to be one of my favorites of the year. And I know you guys went crazy clicking for that book, which I will have listed down below again. I shared on my Instagram recently, maybe I'll share it here, we'll see, of the top books every like month and week that people are buying using my Amazon links, and Worth the Fall immediately shot to the top of the list just after 1 week. So you guys make me so happy. Again, I do always have the links to all my books down below, and when you use them, I do make a small commission off of that. But I also just see how many people click the link. So it isn't just how many people, you know, buy it. Maybe people look at it, maybe they add it to a list for later, maybe they just, you know, do it to take a screenshot of it or something. But I see how many people click it, and it always makes me so happy. So anyway, After the Fall is the first year of Abby and Matt's marriage. So it's just about 90 pages. I believe this one is in Kindle Unlimited. The other ones in the series are not, but this one is. Otherwise, it was only like $2.99 to buy it. And this was so sweet. And I'm glad I read it when I did, because I then went ahead and read Worth the Risk, which is book 2. And this one takes place 2 years after Worth the Fall. So if you read After the Fall, it is literally from like right from, I mean, if you read Worth the Fall, you know that it doesn't have an epilogue. It just ends like at their wedding. It like just ends there. But After the Fall literally starts at their wedding, has their honeymoon, and then the first year of their marriage and what that's like. And it's so cute. But then in Worth the Risk, we get Matt's brother, Steven, and he's one of the wealthy ones. He's like I don't think he's a billionaire, but he's a millionaire. Also, this was written in 2014, so it was millionaire romances instead of billionaire romances. Like now they got to be more than a millionaire now, you know. And our heroine's name is... The heroine is Hannah, and she actually works at a, what's it called? It's kind of like a rehab farm. It's called Freedom Farm, and they do, not just rehab, but for kids with disabilities, they do like therapy with horses, which is great. And like this one didn't quite feel like a Western or like a cowboy romance, but there were lots of horses and children with disabilities involved, and it was very cute. And Steven actually runs into Hannah in a grocery store and just has this like crazy connection, and so he asks her out. Now, he couldn't know this just from meeting her, but Hannah has trauma. She is actually the survivor of a serial killer. And this happened when she was very young. And she was actually raised by 5 older brothers, which, yes, her older brothers have a spin-off series from the McKinley brothers, so we will get to that series eventually. I will read it. But anyway, so Hannah is very wary of men. She is still a virgin. She wasn't like raped by this serial killer, but that's about the only thing that he didn't do to her. And I won't spoil all of it, but it is pretty traumatic. And this book doesn't have trigger warnings because it was written in 2014, so I'll give them at the end. But she went through a lot, and so she's very distrustful of men. Her brothers very much want to protect her and keep her away, so they're just over the bubble. But Stephen doesn't know that. He just meets this pretty woman at a grocery store and wants to go on a date with her. And the more he keeps trying to get her, he realizes how many walls are put up and how much is in his way. And he's just like, I just want to take this woman on a date. Like, she seems so great. And all of this keeps getting in his way. But this was still really sweet. This one leaned into some suspense elements more than I wanted it to, but I still loved it. And getting to see Matt and Abby in this one and the whole family just was. And I definitely will be reading the last one in the series. I'll probably read that next week because that brother actually has a disability. He is missing the bottom half of one of his legs. And so I'm very intrigued for that one too. And that's a single mom and him. So looking for that one. So this one I gave 4 stars. It was a 2.5 on the spice scale. And as I said, there are trigger warnings for PTSD, trauma, loss of a loved one. She was pretty brutalized by this serial killer. So just be prepared for that. And Stephen has some commitment issues because of a loss in his life too. So there's that. All right, then I will just quickly mention I read Fury by Loran Donner. This was the Patreon read of September, so I won't be going into this here at all. I'm actually going to film my review for this shortly, so if you're a patron, look out for this review coming in the next couple of days. This was kind of a like paranormal, altered human, they're part animal, part people, new species thing, and it was quite a ride. So yeah, definitely if you're a patron, check out that review. Then I finally, took me so damn long, I read King of Pride by Anna Huang. Oop. See, I had got this from Bloom as well. Thank you, Bloom. And it came with this cute little poster of a Wilma Pebbles, which wrapped or ripped my bodice. Doesn't play a huge part in this story, but it is kind of cute. I loved it. So this is book 2 in the Kings of Sin series, which King of Greed is actually coming very soon. So I had been slacking. So I grabbed the audio for this, which by the way, the performances were great. This was done in duet with 2 narrators I'd never heard before, which was great. This also has 2 Asian leads. They're from very different families, but what I found was interesting is that they had some like similar pressure, like to be successful and to really like push as hard as they could, even though they're from very different worlds. The heroine in this one is Isabella, and she currently is a bartender at Valhalla Club, and that's where she has seen Kai. But also, Kai is friends with Dante, and Vivian, Dante's wife, which that one is from King of Wrath. She's best friends with Isabella, so there's this like double connection. Kai is a businessman. He has a media company. His family like runs that. And he is actually up for, there's going to be a vote on his mother stepping down as CEO, and he isn't just going to be given this position. He needs to earn it. So he has that stress in his life currently right now. But he's very intrigued by Isabella, and so he is there the nights when she works, and he'll order a drink from her, and then he's very intrigued by her, and she will, because when she's off hours, she can actually use different parts of the club if there's no members there, and there's a piano room, and so she will go and play piano. And one of my favorite interactions is actually like Kai follows her there once and listens to her play, and she is absolutely proficient at piano. It's just beautiful. And like Kai tries to play like better than her, and he can't. And I loved it. I loved it so much. So yeah, this is a kind of a slow burn with them. Not like super slow burn, but you know, they're both trying to resist because she can't be with someone who goes to the club. Like there's a no friend resignation policy, and also he has kind of like high expectations for who he's supposed to marry. There isn't an arranged marriage in place, but it is like highly suggested who he's supposed to marry. So there's that. And then Isabella, she needs to prove that she's successful by the age of 30 or she won't get her inheritance. Her family is pretty wealthy, but she has kind of tried to make it off on her own. and she lives in New York, and, you know, she's working at a Valhalla Club and trying to become a writer, and she wants to write erotic thrillers, and she hasn't been able to finish one yet. And so she has kind of this ultimatum of, like, she needs to prove she's successful by 30, which is just a little over a year away, and if she can't do it, then she's not going to get her inheritance. And so her brother is like, you need to give this up, come home, we'll find a way to make you successful so that by the time you are 30, you can, you know, have your inheritance. So those are the different dramas between them. And yeah, I just really liked this. I loved the chemistry between them. I loved some of the steamy scenes. Just like Ana Huang does a great balance with them, with like, because Kai was an absolute dirty talker, and he wears glasses. He's a bit like nerdy and just like that really hot nerd that you just, you know, there's hidden depths because he's still wearing impeccable suits. But there's a scene where he's gonna like eat pussy when he takes off his glasses to dive in that I was just like, ugh. I've died, okay? But this also wasn't so erotic that it was unappreciated, that I couldn't appreciate it, as some things have been. And I think Ana Huang does very well with that in some aspects. So I gave this one 4.5 stars. The third act conflict was kind of frustrating for me. And I've seen her do it in ways that aren't this frustrating, but, you know, I won't say it was completely out of character. I think she did well, but I didn't like it as much as I liked King of Wrath. So I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it was a 3 on the spice scale. And like I said, there is dirty talking. There also is some, like, public naughtiness that could have gotten them in trouble. So there's that. All right, and then the last one I finished, which I just finished this morning, it is not the book's fault. I'll explain in a second. It took me like a week to get through this book. And the problem is that it was my nighttime book, and I just was falling asleep super early this week. And so it got me into some trouble because I couldn't stay awake to finish it, and that was naughty of me. But this was Untamed by Ivy Jackson. This is coming out next week. This is the second book in her cowboy series she's doing. I really, 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 really enjoyed the first one, and this one was good too. This was a friends to indifferent to lovers type of thing, and they were friends when they were young. The heroine made a move on the hero. He couldn't accept it. He was like, no, we're friends. We can't be more than that. And so she like left. She went to school somewhere else, and she left. And then the sister died, which I mentioned when I talked about the first book. This all affected people differently. And the hero just couldn't believe that the heroine didn't come back when his sister died. Well, two things. One, like, no one of his family told her, which he wasn't the only person she was friends with in the family. So there was that. And then also the fact that she does come back when his sister dies, but he doesn't remember how she came back. So yeah, we'll start with that. But anyway, and then their romance is him finally being like, stop pushing me away, let's make it happen. But there are a few secrets that have to come out first. So this was good. It was spicy. Of course, Ivy Jackson's going to have real good spice in it. I, again, love the family. I love what we see of Rhett and Poppy from the first book in this one, and the progression of, like, her being the step mom to these kids, or the woman in their life, and I liked that. Honestly, so this one didn't have a third act breakup, but it has, you know, some third act conflict, which it's fine. Books gotta have third act conflict. I talk about that, you know, all the time. Like, it's okay to have that. But I didn't like the reactions. Like, it felt weird how it was set up for how the people reacted. So I did kind of skim through some of that until they were getting back together, because I was like, I don't really buy this. Why are people mad about this? You know, like, I didn't understand why we were so upset about it. I just was missing the motivation of that. But I still enjoyed it. It was, again, I do think that it does say something that it took me a week. So I gave this one 4 stars instead of more, just because I was able to put it down. Because there have been times where I get into bed tired and I start reading and I finish it. So that could have happened too. So yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. It's a 3 on the spice scale. It has some spanking, some dirty talking, and again, some public situations that could get them in trouble. So there we go. And then this one has the PTSD of death of a sibling in there. So I'm still enjoying this series. quite a bit, so I'm not running from it by any means, but I didn't like it quite as much as the first one. Yeah. So yeah, that is all the books that I read this week. Look at us, under an hour with the wrap up. It's just great. Again, please check out the Etsy sale that's going on right now. I will have the links for both of the coupons down below. Thank you to everyone who always supports me that way. And if you don't see anything you want to buy today, please make sure you follow the shop so you get notified when I update things, because I have a lot of new designs going up all the time. Like whenever I feel like sewing during the week, I add stuff to the shop. That's how it goes. And it does help a girl out with some little extra income coming in. So thank you so much for watching, friends. You mean so much to me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.